So now you should have the picture and you should hear me talking when you get the picture. Okay, now I'm going to stand in front of it and you're going to hear me here when I flip you off. Okay. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. So test on my standing in front of it. Okay, so you can hear me. Yeah, can you hear me on that? Okay, so I went back. It should come. Test mic 1. Test mic 2. Test mic 3. Test mic 4. Okay, hold on. So I want to see if I go to this graphic. So we're going to this graphic.
John's Grill is the newest venture from John Bennell and the Bennell's Restaurant Group.
We're lucky to have a collective that's as strong and as powerful as the Flying T Club. It's a big deal for us. It is a game.
Botham, we put people first. So we simply start by listening to you.
Simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine in, catering, or drive.
You know, we wouldn't be able to do the things we were able to do this year without the Flying T Club. So we got to continue to. Yeah. The biggest thing is just to have that kind of killer mentality and that mindset. You know, I think the thing that we talked about, and we've tried to use some examples with our players, is,
I think it was definitely lackluster at times.
Just limiting the mistakes, taking it one play at a time, not really rushing into situations.
The handoff, Sanders to the end zone, touchdown TCU. Everhart, he gained 11, and the
it's an offense that's exciting. They've got a couple of big play wide receivers, Quincy Brown, who was actually here at
7. The handoff. Sanders to the end zone. Touchdown TCU.
Everhart.
He gained 11, and they'll run it off first down with Sanders.
Welcome back to week 2 of college football and the second episode of the Frogs Today pregame show. I'm Maggie Hale, alongside me, Courtney Stockhaus, and we have a ton to get to today. We've got a Colorado recap. We're going to have TCU's athletic director, Jeremiah Donati, joining us live on set. And of course, we're going to go through those offensive and defensive keys and even share our stars of the game, hopefully tonight as well.
We'll be hearing from Coach Sonny Dykes and linebacker Johnny Hodges periodically, so grab your popcorn and stay tuned. Before we start, let's go ahead and take a look at some highlights from last week's game against Colorado.
7. The handoff. Sanders to the end zone. Touchdown TCU.
Everhart.
He gained 11, and they'll run it off first down with Sanders. Did he get in? Yes. Trey Sanders.
More often here in the second half.
Morse again looking in zone. Caught. Touchdown. Jared Wiley. And just like that, TCU marches it straight down the field.
Played so far.
3rd down and 9 to the 23. Morris off his back foot over the middle. It's caught. First down and more. Touchdown, Dalen Wright, as he skips into the end zone. And TCU takes a 27-24 lead. Their first lead of the game.
In the last 10 minutes, that's what's going to pop up.
First down and 10 at the 19. And look at Morris. Touchdown. What a fake. Chandler Morris uses his legs and gets into the end zone. And TCU takes a 34-31 lead. Time. They'll start from the 5-yard line. Everhart. And here's Major Everhart galloping down the sideline. Major Everhart. Can he get there? Down at the 5. Snap back TCU. Roderick Ward with the saving tackle.
This defense is just too soft in the middle, and there he goes. Touchdown.
Touchdown. Trey Sanders.
Some great highlights to look back on, and while last week's loss was a tough blow for the Horned Frogs. Some might argue the game might have an asterisk by it, knowing what we now know about how TCU prepared for that game. I mean, last week, Sonny Dykes said they were watching each individual players' films. And Johnny Hodges let us in that they weren't only just watching individual players because of those only returning 7 out of 86 on the team, but they were also watching Kent State's offensive film from last season because Colorado's offensive coordinator was completely new to the team as well.
This past week, Sonny Dykes also referenced how the first game of the season, whether NFL or college football, can have a little bit of a rusty start.
Absolutely.
The team had 10 penalties for 78 yards, 5 of those being for false starts or illegal substitutions. Fundamental penalties is what really set TCU back this past week, but with aggressive football and high-energy football, they're bound to have some penalties like roughing the passer. As for what else could use some room for improvement, turnovers is a big one.
Absolutely. QB1 Chandler Morris threw 2 interceptions, both on the goal line. This is something Sonny also referenced in contention with those fundamental penalties. They'd have a play drawn up, they'd get a false start, and then the team's rattled on the goal line, and that's never what you want near that goal line right there. And however, TCU by no means played bad football. We saw the team went for 541 total offensive yards, which was the most TCU had put up since their 54-24 win over Oklahoma last season. And looking at Chandler's numbers, he put up a 57.1% completion rate with 309 total yards of offense. We talked pregame about Chandler's ability to get shifty, and we definitely saw a glimpse of that when he went up for 19 yards to score a touchdown for TCU, putting them up first play of the fourth quarter, 35-31. And Chandler didn't do it alone. He had some great assets who put up great numbers as well.
Absolutely. Amani Bailey put up a career-high 164 rushing yards, the most we've seen from a Horned Frog since Kendre Miller back in 2021. Trey Sanders also putting his name up on the records with his 3 rushing touchdowns, the most we've seen since Kendre Miller back in 2021 again. All records aside, Amani Bailey went 14 carries in his 164 yards, averaging 11.7 yards per carry. Trey Sanders went 15 for 46, and Sonny talked about his running backs earlier this week. He noted that nothing can replace experience, referencing to Sanders not having been played on the snap in comparison to some of the other players on the field. However, be ready for him to explode at any given point.
And nothing replacing experience is something Sonny Dykes said about Chandler Morris as well. He's coming off the bench last season from an injury. And not only that, but this is his 4th season as a college football quarterback, yet he's classified as a sophomore on the roster. That's because he transferred from Oklahoma. He then got a redshirt year, and then that injury last season. So he's now a sophomore. And ordinarily, we would call sophomores a young budding quarterback, still might be a little bit rusty, haven't taken that many snaps. So to see Chandler kind of have that performance, especially with the interceptions last week, I think that was something Sonny Dykes was basically just saying, you can never mimic a game enough in practice.
Absolutely.
So for Chandler to put up numbers like that, it's not something to necessarily call for concern quite yet. And Sonny gave us a lot of great insight to the team's performance at the presser last week. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Yeah. The biggest thing is just to have that kind of killer mentality and that mindset. I think the thing that we talked about, and we've tried to use some examples with our players, is, college football is different than it used to be. I mean, there are teams that, on Saturdays, beat teams that they're not supposed to beat. And I think it's you have to be able to play at a high level, and it doesn't matter who you're playing. I mean, I think that there are these games that people perceive are kind of mail-in games, and they're not. People are going to have new players and transfers, and there's a lot of good coaches and good schemes, and it's just it's a competitive world out there in college football, and so. You have to be the most excited team to play. I think that's the thing that is and I think it's been consistent. I mean, I think you go back and you look at our season last year. I mean, look, we were a 5-win team the year before, and we won 13 ball games. Okay, and we did that because week in and week out, we were the most excited team to play. And didn't matter who we played, didn't matter, whether or not we were big favorites, big underdogs, whatever. Week in and week out, our guys were motivated, they were excited, we had great leadership, and we went out and we played at a high level. And, we made plays down the stretch to give ourselves opportunities to win games. And a lot of that has to do with just your effort and your intensity and your confidence and all those things. And that's all generated by a desire and a love and a burning desire to be good and to go out and prove yourself. And, I think sometimes as an organization, you got to be careful. And we talked about this a lot in the offseason, just about losing that edge, and how hard it is to get it back if you lose it. And, we didn't play like a team that had that edge on Saturday.
Lots for Sonny Dykes to talk about at that presser, and it's safe to say TCU's defense was getting the brunt of the hate on social media, as well as just analysts all around. It's important to note in the past 2 games, the TCU defense has allowed 110 points. This obviously sparked a lot of conversation about TCU's defensive coordinator, Joe Gillespie, but last week, Johnny Hodges was quick to say that this was not a defensive coordinator problem. He said, this is not a game plan problem. This is an execution problem. And, seeing how fired up Johnny Hodges was in that press conference, I think it's safe to say we know what kind of energy he's bringing here tonight.
Absolutely. No doubt this team is fired up. Taking a look at defense by the numbers from this past week, Johnny Hodges and Bud Clark led the team with 9 tackles each. Jamoy Hodge not far behind with 8 tackles. Total last week from TCU, they totaled with 78 tackles and not far behind Colorado with 66 total tackles. TCU also had 4 sacks and 7 tackles by loss. Colorado had 0 in both of these categories. And that's exactly what we talked about last week in our keys to the game. We knew going into that game that Colorado wasn't going to boast a strong defensive line. Hodges referenced this past week that he didn't feel like every guy on the defense put their bodies on the line doing whatever it took to win the game. Though TCU had more tackles, they did have more missed tackles, and that's what they're hoping to correct this week.
Absolutely. We're hoping to see more of those guys really put it all out there on defense. And another key for both defenses is going to be to win the turnover battle. TCU had 2 turnovers while Colorado boasted only 1. Now, this might not seem like a big difference, and it's not, but when it comes down to it, Colorado had more offensive possession. Colorado had 34 minutes, 33 seconds compared to TCU's 25 minutes, 27 seconds. TCU had a slower start to the season, but I'm sure we're going to see them kick it into full gear here tonight. And when we come back, we're joined on set by TCU's athletic director, Jeremiah Donati. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned.
We're lucky to have a collective that's as strong and as powerful as the Flying T Club. It's a big deal for us. It is a game changer. I would just encourage any fans out there to support it. Everyone asks me, what's the biggest priority? And I say, NIL is big. Please jump on board, show these student athletes how much they mean to you. The thing about NIL is I think there's a right and a wrong way to do it, and the Flying T Clubs do it the right way. Let's keep winning. Join the Flying T Club today.
In Botham, we put people first. So, we simply start by listening to you. Whether you're searching for customized insurance, HR, or financial solutions to protect your home, car, health, business, or employees, our specialists are here to serve you, the people you care about, and your success. Higginbotham, insurance, HR, and financial services. Inspired by you.
Simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine in, catering, or drive-through. 2900 Montgomery, just off I-30. Remember, the best barbecue in Fort Worth is at Railhead Smokehouse.
We wouldn't be able to do the things we were able to do this year without the Flying T Club. So we got to continue to get people involved. It's more important right now than it's ever been.
Flying T is special. It's the best thing that I've encountered in college. It allows us to be able to offset a lot of the costs that our scholarships aren't able to cover. If people like winning, invest in the Flying T Club and NIL.
It's almost a necessity now in the college football world. I mean, you got to kind of invest in the programs, and what you put in is what you get out.
John's Grill is the newest venture from John Bennell and the Bennell's Restaurant Group. A ranch-to-table concept featuring food, beer, and spirits from around the great state of Texas. Our menu is designed by Chef Sean Alvarez and features 2 chef-inspired burgers, the Fatty and the Flatty, plus a brisket menu perfect for your casual night out. Fast casual service in a fun, relaxed, family-friendly environment, featuring 11 big screen TVs for you to catch the big game on. Our mixology team has created a craft cocktail and beer menu featuring local spirits and brews from across Texas. John's Grill, home of the Players Club show each week, 2905 West Berry Street in Fort Worth, or online at johnsgrill.com.
First home loss under Sonny Dykes his entire time here. Following the loss, some players left the field before the alma mater, but you and Sonny Dykes were quick to comment, taking accountability on social media. Why was it important for you to comment on that?
Well, because the players were taking the heat for it, and candidly, it was our first loss with the new coaching administration. I didn't clearly set the expectation. I know it's commonplace to our fans here and to some of the players, but I think if they don't hear from the head coach, hey, here's what we do after every game, win or lose, we stand up for the alma mater, then they're just going to walk off the field and follow whoever's in front of them. So that's 100% on me because I never had that conversation with Sonny. He felt horrible about it. I obviously felt horrible about it. Our players did, but there was no the blame. The blame was misguided. It's a simple fix, if you will, and it won't happen again.
Like we just mentioned, Dykes has created a culture of winning. This was his first loss, home loss, and third loss overall, those others being the Big 12 championship and national championship. How do you combat concerns over a loss with a new expectation of a close to undefeated season?
Well, it's the game could have easily gone our way, and it didn't. You got to give Colorado credit. They played really well, and candidly, we didn't. I think we're going to learn a lot from that game. I think we're excited to play today. You saw what Colorado did earlier with Nebraska. We know they're a good team, and so that helps soften the blow a little bit. But, we didn't play our best. And so anytime you don't play your best and you lose, it's going to sting a little longer. It's hard to – the hard part about a season like last year or any season, it's hard to win games at this level. And so we've got to manage expectations. We got to remember it's a new coaching staff. We're still building, right?
Absolutely.
So we had a great year last year, but there's still a lot of work to do. Sonny would tell you that. And so that was something that we will learn from and build from, though.
Yeah. And a lot of hype around that game, too, though. It was a lot of pressure for those guys. Big noon kickoff here, first game of the season, and TCU set an attendance record that week. Got to read these numbers off. 53,294 fans and 6,663 students. What does that say just about the school spirit that TCU has here?
It's big, and the fans showed up, and I couldn't have been more proud of their effort. And it was hot. And they showed up. It was big noon. It was all the things. That's the moment. Those are the moments you sign up for. And so we didn't play our best. And I think that's what's most disappointing to Sonny and the coaching staff and to the players. And so you got to learn from that. And I think we will.
Absolutely.
So TCU and Nicholls State will be their first time playing against each other. The contract was signed in 2019, which you were there for. What made Nicholls State a good component to play against TCU?
Well, it's close. They're just one state over in Louisiana. They were really interested in coming here to play. I think they've got some alums in the area. And so it worked out perfectly to play them a lot in week 2. So we don't know what to expect from them, just like they don't know what to expect from us.
Yep.
But we don't have to worry about that's not the focus. The focus is on how do we get better and playing our game and executing. Obviously, we need to tackle better. We had some miscues, just getting plays in and out on offense. And so all those things are correctable. That's the good news, is that we've got great coaches and great players. And so those things, I expect us to play a much sharper game today.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. Super excited to see what happens tonight. As always, thank you so much for joining us. And we got the chance to sit down with Coach Sonny Dykes on the Coaches Show this week. He told us kind of what to expect from the team and what to expect from Nicholls State. Let's go ahead and take a look.
It's an offense that's exciting. They've got a couple of big play wide receivers. Quincy Brown, who was actually here at TCU, is one of their receivers. They do a good job trying to get Quincy the ball. He's a big, long, athletic guy that can run. They've got a quarterback that makes a lot of plays, a left-handed quarterback, and throws well on the run. Got a shifty running back. They got a big offensive tackle. The left tackle is a guy that I've been really impressed with on tape. He's physical, good run blocker and pass protector as well. Defensively, they're going to show you a lot of different looks. Play some man on the back end, but primarily a zone blitz team. And they will try to, confuse you, keep you off balance. 4-down look and play with a, kind of a 4-2-5 defensive front. On special teams, pretty solid. They gave up a punt return last week. So it's one of the things that we're going to have to really do a good job this week is generating some plays on special teams, in the kick return game, punt return game, and be really sound on special teams. So good overall team. Tim Rebo's the head coach. He's had a lot of success. He's been at Nicholls for a long time now. He's always been a winner everywhere he's been in the past. They've figured out ways to win, and this team will be excited to play against us on Saturday, and they'll come out and play free football, and they got nothing to lose. And so we'll probably see everything, and we're going to have to prepare for it. And like I said, do a better job than we did last week.
Sonny Dykes obviously giving us some great insight into what happened last week, what went wrong, what went right, and what to expect, which is what we are focused on here now, what to expect tonight. We're going to go ahead and count down our offensive keys for TCU and then head on into Nicholls State. So, Courtney, go ahead and start us out with our first offensive key tonight.
Well, I will say it again and again. You have to win the turnover battle to be successful. TCU's 2 interceptions by the goal line last week really set them back for TCU tonight. It's important to stress that success doesn't come with a win. Tonight, they have to be a sizable win to prove that last week was just a fluke and TCU is back on the right track.
Obviously, red zone scoring. We referenced those 2 interceptions on the goal line, but last week, Colorado converted 3 red zone opportunities for 3 scores. TCU had 6 red zone opportunities and only converted 4. This might not seem like a big difference, but when it comes down to it, it matters how long your team has possession of the ball on offense, and that just wasn't a category TCU won last week.
Yes, exactly. And Monty Bailey referenced in the press conference earlier this week that the heat was a huge factor for him last game. He was a huge asset to TCU on the offense. So hoping that tonight's night game will really help him out. And he took better care of his body this week nutritionally, and he's going to do that this week out on the field.
Absolutely. And, we had a great run game going. We had Trey Sanders, Amani Bailey. We even had the special teams Major Everhart with a 74-yard kickoff return. What a play to watch. Love to see that one again.
Yes.
But, we didn't get those receivers involved as much as TCU would have liked to. I'm hoping to see tonight that we get those receivers more involved. If TCU wants to win convincingly and get back into that national conversation, they're going to have to play offense on both sides realistically, and obviously as much as Kendall Riles, our new offensive coordinator, got those tight ends involved, I think that he set a great fundamental for, just Chandler Morris and Jared Wiley to really connect and be able to connect on those passes.
Absolutely.
And last week, Nicholls State took their first loss of the season as well. Sacramento State pulling out a victory 38-24. Courtney, what is their first offensive key?
Well, Nicholls State went into halftime down 17-3. A deficit like that normally doesn't fly for any team, but Nicholls State will definitely have to be careful this week, knowing that TCU is a second half team. They'll have to stay clear of that early TCU lead as much as possible.
Absolutely. And what's interesting about college football?
Tell me.
Trends are always the same with teams who are winning versus teams who are losing. And like we've said so many times, Nicholls State also lost the turnover category last week. So tonight, they're going to want to win in turnovers as well. They've had just one turnover, which should show you how much of a difference it means when Sacramento State had 0 and came out convincingly on top, and football, just like any sport, is a game of numbers.
Absolutely. One of those numbers being time of possession. Just like TCU last week, Nicholls State had the ball on offense for 26 minutes and 49 seconds. Sacramento State accumulating 33 minutes and 11 seconds. Half that battle is, like you said, the turnover game. The other half being able to control the tempo. Both teams need to play a completely different ball game tonight in order to come out victorious.
Absolutely. Lots to do tonight on offense and defense for both teams. And Johnny Hodges, we've referenced him a lot, but he had a lot to say in this week's press conference. Let's go ahead and take a look.
I think it was definitely lackluster at times. I know our defensive coordinator is taking a lot of heat right now, and it's really upsetting, to me, and I'm sure to other guys, because he's done nothing but put us in situations to succeed. At the beginning of each week, he gives us a packet with all this stuff in it that gives us all these details. 3rd and 7 through 12, a team like that, they run the ball 30% of the times, which is a really big number for 3rd and 7 to 12. 3rd and 4 to 6, it's basically 50-50. So we got people playing so far off the ball when our coordinator told us it's a 50-50 if they're running or passing. And then our coordinator also told us all they like to do is hitches, verts, digs. And we weren't able to do that, Somehow it didn't, the message wasn't relayed. So the communication was definitely lackluster, and it's very, very upsetting that our defensive coordinator has to take all this slack when he did nothing but tell us exactly what was going to happen and put us in situations in practice that mocked the game, and we weren't able to take what he told us and bring it on the field on Saturday.
Boy, did Johnny Hodges have a lot to say about TCU's defense last week. Very fired up. We mentioned that a little bit. We're going to mention it a little bit more. We always are going to sound like a broken record with this team. But, let's go ahead and get into those defensive keys. Start us out, TCU's first defensive key.
Well, if Johnny Hodges says it, it has to be a key, obviously. At the presser, he talked a lot about wanting to see more energy and effort from his guys. He didn't feel as though his defensive linemen were willing to put their bodies on the line and willing to give it their all. If his comments were not an indicator, if you're not willing to give the energy tonight, then there's a guy on the depth chart just waiting to take a snap.
Oh, absolutely. And another key is honestly just going to be to stick to the game plan. Johnny Hodges talked a lot about it, that, it wasn't a defensive coordinator problem. They had a great game plan drawn up. Guys just didn't really buy into the system, and they didn't buy into that preparation that they had. A lot of new guys on the team, maybe first game jitters, new uniform, new field, obviously going up against Colorado. It would make anybody nervous, first game of the season. And going into Nicholls State, let's go ahead and talk about those ones.
Well, last week against their loss against Sacramento State, the Nicholls State defense held them to an average of 3.8 yards per carry. With an average that low, you'd think they'd have their run game locked down, but that just wasn't the case. Sacramento State ended with a total of 185 rushing yards, taking ahead of Nicholls State's 97 yards total. Nicholls State needs to be especially careful tonight when it comes to Amani Bailey and Trey Sanders and what they can do, especially when given a run lane.
Absolutely. And honestly, for Nicholls State, it's going to be more coverage on the pass play. Looking at Nicholls State film from Sacramento State last week, they lost because a lot of blown coverage. They're playing that zone defense, and they're playing too deep. Those guys are getting burned on the slant and the flat routes. So TCU is really going to have to play, those slant and flat routes if they're not going to repeat those mistakes this week. And I think Nicholls State is really going to have to make sure they don't leave TCU's receivers open, because TCU is a different caliber of player here tonight, and they're going to find that out real quick if they leave those guys uncovered. We're about to close out the show. We've got a little bit more to discuss, though. So when we come back, we've got our stars of the game, and we'll close out.
We're lucky to have a collective that's as strong and as powerful as the Flying T Club. It's a big deal for us. It is a game changer. I would just encourage any fans out there to support it. Everyone asks me, what's the biggest priority? And I say, NIL is big. Please jump on board, show these student athletes how much they mean to you. The thing about NIL is I think there's a right and a wrong way to do it, and the Flying T Clubs do it the right way. Let's keep winning. Join the Flying T Club today.
In Botham, we put people first. So, we simply start by listening to you. Whether you're searching for customized insurance, HR, or financial solutions to protect your home, car, health, business, or employees, our specialists are here to serve you, the people you care about, and your success. Higginbotham, insurance, HR, and financial services. Inspired by you.
Simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine in, catering, or drive-through. 2900 Montgomery, just off I-30. Remember, the best barbecue in Fort Worth is at Railhead Smokehouse.
We wouldn't be able to do the things we were able to do this year without the Flying T Club. So we got to continue to get people involved. It's more important right now than it's ever been.
Flying T is special. It's the best thing that I've encountered in college. It allows us to be able to offset a lot of the costs that our scholarships aren't able to cover. If people like winning, invest in the Flying T Club and NIL.
It's almost a necessity now in the college football world. I mean, you got to kind of invest in the programs, and what you put in is what you get out.
Now it's time for my favorite segment of the show, our little prediction about who's going to show up and show out tonight. For me, I'm rocking with Johnny Hodges. Last season he was the team's leading tackler. Last week he led the team in tackles as well, and I can see him start to emerge not only as that key player for the defense, but also the key leader. Everything he said in that press conference, I think what the defense needed to hear going into this week. So if I had to pick a guy to stand out, I'm going with Johnny Hodges.
I'm going with Amani Bailey. We saw his rushing yards from last week, and I think the only factor that really stopped him from going full throttle was the heat. So
Absolutely.
With today being a night game, I think that factor will be out of the picture, and we're going to see a lot more offensively from him tonight.
Absolutely. Be sure to keep an eye out, especially for those two players. And that's going to do it for our show today. Be sure to head on out to frogstoday.com for more content as well. And if you love seeing me and Courtney on desk so much, you can come Thursday to John's Grill. We've got Players Club going on there. We get to know the athletes a little bit more personally. And as always, we've got the State of the Frogs as well. So lots going on over there at Frogs Today. And from all of us here at Frogs Today, I'm Maggie Hale.
I'm Courtney Stockhaus.
Go Frogs.